Breaking news! It's finally happened. After months, no years of speculation, the Iraqi Gazette has just officially published the approval for the Iraqi Dinar revaluation. Yes, you heard that right. The legal foundation is now live. But what happens next might shock you. Get ready, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what this Gazette publication means, the next steps for investors like you, and why the clock may already be ticking. This isn't just another rumor, this is the real deal, and you need to hear this. Let's begin by understanding why the Iraqi Gazette is so important. The Iraqi Gazette is the official government publication where all new laws, regulations, and governmental decisions are announced. If something is printed there, it's not speculation. It's legally binding. When a law or economic policy is signed and announced in Parliament, it only becomes official once it's published in the Gazette. That means if the RV or revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is in the Gazette, it is officially approved. That just happened. This is not a leak. This is not insider chatter. This is not a prediction. This is a government-verified action. Let's dive into the details. According to recent sources and financial experts, the publication includes a new directive regarding Iraq's monetary reform strategy. It outlines changes in currency policy, central bank intervention, and in some interpretations, the revaluation mechanism. Key points believed to be included: a shift in official exchange policy, legal framework for adjusted currency rates, sanctioned international engagement for trade agreements at the new value, provisions for the removal of the dual exchange rate. This points to one thing: Iraq is ready to play on a global economic stage, and the RV is the bridge. Let's rewind for just a second. The journey to this moment hasn't been short. In 2003, following the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime, the Iraqi dinar lost its value. Over the past 20 years, Iraq has rebuilt its oil infrastructure, stabilized its government, and returned to economic growth. In 2020, talk of currency reform reignited, especially after Iraq began building foreign currency reserves and implementing anti-corruption laws. In 2023, whispers of revaluation increased after strategic meetings with the IMF and World Bank. And now in 2025, the publication in the Gazette finally confirms that all that groundwork has reached a legal milestone. Here's where it gets important for you. The Gazette publication is like the green light at the racetrack. But what's the car? And when does it launch? Just because it's published today doesn't mean it happens tonight. However, many experts agree it typically takes 730 days for full implementation. After a Gazette announcement, watch for a formal statement from the Central Bank of Iraq, updates on the CBI official exchange rate, confirmation from U.S. Treasury or IMF partner banks. Once the RV is implemented, we'll likely see a new official rate, but that may differ from market trading rates initially. Be patient. Market rates can spike, dip, and then stabilize over days or weeks. This is where it gets real for dinar holders. Based on previous chatter, once the RV is triggered, designated banks or redemption centers will open appointments. You'll need ID, proof of purchase, and account verification. There may be limited exchange windows, 3 to 10 days. Let's do some rough math. If the new rate is 0.50 per IQD, and you hold 1 million dinar, that's $500,000. But wait before you pop champagne. Taxes. Depending on your jurisdiction, you may owe capital gains. Fees. Some banks may charge exchange fees 1 to 3%. Spread. There may be a difference between the buy and sell rate. That means your actual payout could be 10–15%, lower than you expect, so plan accordingly. Since the publication, reactions are pouring in from around the world. Kuwait and UAE have expressed interest in strengthening currency ties with Iraq. The IMF issued a statement encouraging Iraq's move toward monetary sovereignty. Even U.S. Treasury officials have acknowledged Iraq's bold fiscal reform initiatives. This means you're not the only one watching. The whole world is paying attention. Let me be crystal clear. You cannot afford to be passive at this moment. Here's your action plan. Secure your dinar. Make sure your currency is safe, traceable, and you have proof of purchase. Keep it stored in a fireproof safe if possible. Check your redemption options. Call your local or international banks. Ask if they plan to handle dinar exchanges, and if they require appointments. Get legal and tax guidance. Consult a CPA or tax attorney. Ask about capital gains, reporting obligations, and whether trust structures are worth considering. Avoid scams. Be careful of early exchange offers or special groups promising higher rates. If it's not backed by a real bank or authority, stay away. Let's say the RV finalizes next week and you're not ready. What happens? You could miss your ideal exchange window. You may lose out on higher introductory rates. You might get hit with higher taxes from improper filing. Preparation isn't optional, it's essential. The difference between acting today and waiting could be tens of thousands of dollars. Let's zoom out. This revaluation isn't just about profit. It's about a sovereign nation reclaiming its economic identity. For Iraq, it means global trade expansion. It boosts foreign investment. It enhances national dignity. For you, it could mean debt freedom, retirement security, and the ability to help your family or community. This is more than just money, it's a moment in history, and you're a part of it. Now that you know the Iraqi Gazette has officially approved the RV, you've got a choice. Are you going to sit back and watch others cash in? Or are you going to get informed, get prepared, and be first in line when that window opens? You need to hear this before you book that appointment. Reports continue to surface about lower than expected exchange rates offered on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. At first glance, it seems random, but when you begin to piece together the stories, a theme emerges. Take Angela M., an IQD holder from Phoenix. She had an appointment at a redemption center on a Wednesday morning, expecting to exchange at the peak contract rate she had seen reported just the day before. But when she sat down, the rate was lower by 15%. When she asked why, the response was vague, something about rate realignment. Now contrast that with Tom and Michelle, a couple from Florida. They were initially booked for Wednesday, but were advised by their private group to reschedule for Friday. On Friday, they locked in a rate that was higher than the previous 2 days combined. Coincidence? Possibly. But this midweek slump shows up again and again in people's testimonies. To understand this better, we need to look at how the system works behind the scenes. Redemption centers and financial institutions often operate on liquidity cycles, funding allotments, and international settlement timing, many of which are reset or rebalanced midweek. Mondays. Most centers are recalibrating from weekend closures. Rates can be volatile, but sometimes very favorable if you're first. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, these are rate adjustment days. Banks often use this period to adjust their ledgers, rebalance reserves, and prepare for Thursday-Friday settlements. Thursdays and Fridays. This is when final pushes happen before the week closes, and when centers are often flush with funds, aiming to hit targets. Tuesday and Wednesday are the gray zone, the uncertain, shifting, and often conservative. If you're exchanging, then you're walking into a moving target and likely leaving money on the table. Private exchange groups, those with access to contract rates, pre-negotiated terms, and top-tier redemption access, almost never book appointments for Tuesday or Wednesday. These groups have intel on when rates reset, which days centers are allowed to offer peak payouts, and when treasury-based signals are likely to drop. One group insider, Fun, who asked to remain anonymous, said this: "We avoid Tuesday and Wednesday at all costs. Those days are for recalibration, not opportunity. Our people go in Monday mornings or Thursday afternoons. That's when you strike. If the big players are avoiding midweek, why shouldn't you? Even in the Forex markets, IQD and VND rate fluctuations tend to follow predictable weekly waves. Tuesday and Wednesday, slower market movement. Lower liquidity. Institutions in analysis mode. Monday and Thursday, Friday. Monday brings rate jumps from weekend news. Thursday, Friday, there's a final push before markets pause. These fluctuations are further amplified during revaluation periods and when new information, UST notices and global cues can change things dramatically. Midweek is when the dust is settling, not the time to walk into a high-stakes exchange room. Let's hear from a few more community members who experienced this firsthand. Darren C. from San Diego exchanged VND on a Tuesday afternoon. The same center offered his cousin a higher rate on Thursday. Same amount, same location. Lisa P. from Ohio had a choice, Wednesday or Friday. She chose Friday. Her center contact smiled and said, "Good call." That was enough for her. A redemption agent who chose to remain anonymous said, "We aren't allowed to discuss timing publicly, but let's just say Tuesdays and Wednesdays are more for intake than for big payouts." These stories paint a clear picture. There is a right time and a wrong time to exchange. If you're preparing for your exchange appointment, here's how to maximize your opportunity. Avoid Tuesday and Wednesday if possible. Push for Thursday, Friday, or Monday morning slots. Stay informed on rate cycles. Join groups, follow intel drops, monitor rate charts. Be flexible with timing. Don't rush the process just because you're eager. One day could cost or earn you thousands. Confirm with your center. Ask subtle questions like, are certain days better for higher liquidity? Or when do most VIPs come in? Sometimes they'll hint at the right window. So is it really that bad to exchange on a Tuesday or Wednesday? If you absolutely must, it's not the end of the world. But if you have any flexibility, the data, the testimonies, and the strategy all point in the same direction. Avoid the midweek dip. Wait for the rate spike. This is your once-in-a-lifetime chance to turn foreign currency into generational wealth. Don't gamble with bad timing. What do you think? Have you exchanged on a Tuesday or Wednesday and noticed a difference? That statement alone reveals more than most official sources ever will. It confirms what many in the currency community have long suspected. Not all days are created equal when it comes to exchanging your Iraqi Dinar, IQD, or Vietnamese Dong, VND. In fact, the difference in timing could be the key factor between walking away with a life-changing windfall or settling for a disappointing payout. Over the past year, numerous patterns have emerged across private groups, insider forums, and real-world investor stories. The recurring theme? Exchange appointments that fall on Tuesdays or Wednesdays often result in lower rates, vague explanations, or administrative delays. In contrast, those who patiently wait for Mondays, Thursdays, or Fridays tend to secure better results, both in terms of rate and service. So why is this happening? The answer lies in understanding how redemption centers and affiliated financial institutions operate. These centers are not simply open 24/7 with a fixed plan. They follow internal funding schedules, liquidity cycles, and settlement periods, most of which peak or reset outside the Tuesday-Wednesday window. Mondays often reflect pent-up weekend activity, where institutions respond to global shifts, updates, and weekend intel. Thursdays and Fridays, on the other hand, are seen as settlement days, when centers are more aggressive in locking in final appointments before the financial week wraps up. In contrast, Tuesdays and Wednesdays serve a quieter role. These midweek days are often dedicated to reviews, recalibrations, and internal accounting rather than high-volume, high-rate exchanges. Think of it like this. If Mondays are the start of the race and Fridays are the finish line, then Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the pacing zone, not the moment to sprint. If you're planning your exchange appointment, this information is more than just trivia. It could be the critical factor in determining your financial outcome. And for investors holding substantial amounts of IQD or VND, every fraction of a cent can mean thousands of dollars in difference. Here's how you can position yourself for the best possible result. First, try to avoid scheduling your exchange on a Tuesday or Wednesday. If those are the only days available, consider rescheduling or asking your redemption center if another slot will open later in the week. Mondays, especially early morning, or Thursdays and Fridays typically offer better potential. Second, stay informed. Join reputable currency groups, monitor rate movement patterns, and follow credible intel sources. The more you know about weekly fluctuations, institutional activity, and appointment outcomes, the more you can time your exchange strategically. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to Currency Corner Update, and don't forget to tap the bell icon so you're instantly notified when we release critical intel like this.